In this lesson, we're going to start talking about networking. The first thing we need to talk about when we talk about networking is network interfaces. On Linux, there's actually a utility that will show you all of the interfaces on the system. Under Windows, if you've ever run across this, there's a utility called ipconfig. Now, under Linux and under Unix, it's always been interface config or ifconfig. So I do ifconfig and I see the different interfaces that are on my system. In this case, I've got one Ethernet interface, which is ETH0. That's actually the name that's used for the interface. It's how I would refer to it if I ever need to make changes to it. On top of that, I've got a loopback interface, or LO. Loopback, it's really a testing term, and it's used if you want to communicate with only the local machine. It loops back to itself, never leaves the system, and it's always a local loopback. You can actually see it says right here, local loopback. It just loops back to itself. I've got two interfaces, so I've got ETH0 and I've got LO. I could have multiple interfaces, of course. If I had more interfaces in my system, they would all show up here. And just to make sure that that's not true, I could do -A, which is going to show me all of the interfaces. I could actually just look at the interface configuration for one interface. If I did ifconfig ETH0, it's going to show me the ETH0 configuration. We've got IP address. We've got all of the other information, so the broadcast address here, for example, and we've got the network mask. Everything you need to know about your interface shows up under ifconfig. You can also see I've got an Internet v6 address or IPv6 address, and that shows up right down here. Those are my interface configuration details. If you ever want to know anything more about your network interface, you would go there. I could also go up here and I can show the interfaces that I've got. You can see I've got a wired connection 1. If I wanted to actually make changes to it, I could go here and I could edit it. In this case, I've got my MAC address, which is the media access control address. And if I go over here, it says automatically connect. IPv4, I've got DHCP. So you can certainly make changes using the graphical interface and see some details there using the GUI, or you can be in the console and just use the standard command line utilities like ifconfig here. Now we're going to look at some more network utilities coming up in the next several lessons.